Hello, welcome back to our channel. I'm Radina, and today I'm going to be showing you what I got up to for my elective in Germany. Okay, so what is an elective? Essentially, it is a practical period where as med students we are required to spend some time in a hospital. As South African med students, it's usually 4 weeks, and we get to pick our hospital, we get to pick our department. It can either be in South Africa or overseas. I spent 4 weeks in a cardiology department in Germany. It was an incredible experience, and I not only got to see how a healthcare system works in another country, but I also learned more about what cardiologists do in their day-to-day lives, and I got to see how exciting the hospital environment can get, especially if you can't speak the language. But yeah, so this is what happened. So firstly, I learned how to read an ECG properly, because I know we've learned how to read them, but you know, in practice it's a lot better. And also the doctors, they were really good at explaining. On the first day, we also went down to the cath lab, where through the femoral vein, they placed 3 catheters to the heart in 3 different places, where they would then monitor the heart's electrical activity. Maybe they can induce certain arrhythmias. So for the first day we went and they were inducing different types of arrhythmias, and they were checking this patient for Brugada syndrome, which is extremely rare. And you know, it was a long shot, but I think there were some symptoms that were pointing towards Brugada syndrome. Then on rounds this week, we've seen a lot of different types of patients. I was in a very specialized unit this week, so they specialized in arrhythmias. So I saw a lot of ventricular tachycardia, I saw VFib, AFib, all of these different types of arrhythmias. On the morning rounds, the student doctors, so in my ward we had a 6th year, and then we had someone who's studying to become an oncologist, but she has to do a round in a different internal medicine speciality in order to specialize. These 2 were very sweet. They were doing a lot of, you know, the nitty-gritty stuff in the morning, so I would go with them. And what I saw was them using the sonography machine. They would have a look, you know, there were some patients with pleural effusion, so they would then have a look and see how much fluid is left, whether the diuretics are working, or if we need to then perform a thoracocentesis. We did get to perform a thoracocentesis with the 1 patient, and that was very scary. The needle is massive that they put in. It's very, and the process is very sterile. We went to the cath lab a number of times on my last day this week as well, where they showed me how they placed the catheters or the leads. So we placed these leads, right? And then they showed, you know, how they monitored the different parts of the heart, and they did a 3D image of the heart as well, which was really cool. All of it was in German, so I can't really explain more than that. They did let me pull out one, which was kind of scary. But yeah, it was a lovely first week, and I learned a lot, you know, about ECGs more than the patient interaction. So hopefully next week I can see more patients one-on-one, you know, practice my German a little bit, get it to a level where I can understand what the doctors are saying most of the time. That's it for week 1. See you for week 2. This week it was very exciting. We did a lot of new things. I was moved to a new ward this time. So last week I was in a ward that dealt more with arrhythmias, and this week I was in a ward that dealt more with heart valves and cardiac incompetence, regurgitation, these kinds of things, which was very fascinating. On Monday, I saw an ECG, how an ECG is done, which isn't exciting for a lot of people, I guess. And I guess after the first time, it won't be that exciting, but I don't know, it was very exciting for me. And then also on Tuesday, I went to go and see in an operating theater they were placing an aortic valve through a catheter through an artery, which was really fascinating. I didn't know that they would go through an artery. So it was very sterile, it was very serious, like no one was talking that much. Because they were taking x-rays during the procedure, we had to wear these heavy lead aprons, I think. So that was incredibly heavy, and afterwards I was very happy to be out of there. They were mostly explaining in German, so I didn't catch all of it, but it was very fascinating. On Wednesday I got to speak to a patient and try and take a history from them in German. I had the 6th-year student that is allocated to my ward. She was there with me as well, so she was helping me every now and then with words that I was forgetting. But that was really cool. And I also got to listen to a mechanical heart valve. I got to auscultate for the first time as well, which was amazing. And then on Thursday there was a nurses' strike. So over here I think it works differently. The hospital was preparing for this day, and normally most of the nurses don't come in. So on Wednesday, patients who could be discharged were discharged. Patients who could be moved to other wards, they were moved to the other wards just so that they could concentrate patients to specific floors, so that the nurses that did come in could then be placed there and resources and everything could be concentrated there. That was kind of a slow day. We still went to the other wards to check on the patients. They were still, you know, my doctor's patients, and we got to do another thoracocentesis, or pleural punction as they call it here. I said that wrong. So that was also interesting to see. She had run into some complications, so it was interesting to see, you know, the problem solving. But yeah, that's it for week 2. I'm having a lot of fun here. I'm really learning a lot, not just medically, but also professionally and personally. On to next week. Week 3 and 4 done. In Germany, we did a lot of new things, and we also repeated a lot of the things I'd already learned, so I got to see it again, see different problem-solving aspects. I participated in quite a few lectures with the 6th year that I was paired with, so that was also really interesting. They usually have one a week where they go into one of the boardrooms in the hospital, and I got to listen and see how it is. I also finally know my way around the nurses' station, so where all the equipment and everything is kept. In the middle, by all the rooms, there's the nurses' station. I also got to see 2 really interesting procedures. So the one was a stent placement in the femoral veins, and it was actually really interesting because the doctor was multilingual. So he was speaking to me in English, he was speaking to the nurse in German, and then the patient was speaking a different language. So he was also speaking to the patient in a 3rd language. So that was really fascinating. And the second procedure that I got to see was a coronography, where they would then also place the stent in one of the coronary vessels of the heart. So that was also really fascinating to see, especially the vessels of the actual heart, seeing them all lit up on the screen. It was really interesting. And there were a few more patient interactions that I also got to witness. There was a patient who refused treatment, so I got to see how the doctors interacted with that and how they dealt with that kind of circumstance, and also got to take blood, which was really cool because back in South Africa I'd only ever done it on dummies, so this was really fun to actually do it on patients. I was very nervous. And yeah, I got to see a couple new and rare conditions, which was also really fascinating. I had to do a little bit of reading on them as well, just to fully understand what was going on, but that was really cool just to think, you know, in the 3rd and 4th week, seeing all these new things. All in all, I had the best time during my 4 weeks abroad. I got to meet new people in the medical field, and I got to see how medical professionals are trained overseas. I got to encounter a serious language barrier and find ways to work around that. The biggest thing I take from the whole experience is my growth in confidence. I learned a lot about myself and how I fit into the hospital environment. It was truly exciting to go in every day and interact with all the sweet patients and work with everyone in the ward. A little reminder of why we started on this path in the first place. And the weekends with all the touristy things was kind of fun too. Having said all that, here are some things that I'm sure a few of you are keen to hear about. Tips for going overseas. So firstly, get in touch with medical universities. They will most likely be linked to an academic hospital, and there you'll find many doctors who are ready and willing to impart knowledge onto you. The perfect place to learn as much as you can, and you can also ask the university for any tips for being a student abroad and also some accommodation options as well. Number 2, try stick to a country where you can speak the language or learn that language well in advance. So for me, I properly started with German lessons 6 months before I left South Africa, and it helped just with the conversational moments during the day. It obviously wasn't enough for ward rounds and serious medical discussions, but I was prepared for that. However, if you want to maximize your learning, stick to a country where you can then understand the professionals around you. Next up, worry about your flight tickets last. So first get your placement and your accommodation sorted out. I purchased my ticket first, thinking that the closer to the departure date it would get, the more expensive they would become. But I checked periodically and the price only really started increasing less than a month before the departure date. So worry about the other things first. Accommodation and food will be the biggest thing to worry about. So speak to your university, see if maybe there are any funding options available for you. And also remember, you will be in a new country where you'll be working in the hospital every weekday. So try and keep the weekends for some fun, some relaxing. Try and sort everything out as much as possible this side before you leave. And the last tip, find out about the etiquette in the hospital that you will be working in. Do they wear scrubs or lab coats? Some countries don't even allow fourth years to touch patients. Make sure you get in touch with your host supervisor then before you leave, so that you're not surprised with anything when you arrive. Maybe they'll want you to bring your own BP cuff, I don't know. And yeah, that's it for me. Good luck for your month of fun and learning. And if you already did your elective, please share your story down below. We would love to read them, and I'm sure fourth years making the decision right now would also appreciate it. Yeah, cheers! It was an incredible experience, and I got to experience the blah 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 blah. And yeah, that's it for me. Blah blah blah. On the first day, we also went down to the cat. Blah blah.
Did you know the hyoid bone is the only bone in your entire body that is not attached to other bones? It sits right above your voice box here. Through its muscular attachment, it helps function in swallowing, speaking, and breathing.